welcome to the Glasstire Top 5. It's the week of July 19th, 2018. I'm Rainey Knudson.
I'm Christina Rees.
Normally we're counting down the top 5 art events in Texas, but this week it is the middle of the summer, smack dab in the middle, and we are talking about podcasts, our favorite podcasts. And this came up because I was in New Mexico last week. Did I mention this? Did I mention that I climbed Wheeler Peak? Did I mention that Wheeler Peak is the tallest mountain in New Mexico? Anyway, my friends that I was with, we were all talking about podcasts, and I realized I'm always asking people for podcast recommendations. I'm always asking you for podcast recommendations. So we thought we'd round up our favorite podcasts.
Yeah.
I was in New Mexico because I was interviewing the great Dave Hickey, and excerpts from our interview will be coming out on Glasstire soon. And we shot at the home of the lovely Linda Benglis, who I got to meet, who is one of my heroes. So that was an enormous treat. Wow.
Yeah.
So it was awesome to be in Santa Fe just to see those two people. And to climb Wheeler Peak. Did I mention that?
No. Wait,
okay.
What?
So we would be remiss if we didn't kick this off with our own podcast, the Glasstire channel, available on SoundCloud and iTunes and wherever fine podcasts are to be found. Mm-hmm. We update it about twice a month.
Yeah. You and I have done, we've done Art Dirt for more than a year now. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Art Bores, which is Neil's podcast, which is new, and he interviews mostly artists. And then we've got David McGee has number 9. So
subscribe to the Glasstire channel, and it'll pop up whenever we have a new one up, and it may be a topic of interest to you.
And I want to mention that Peter Lucas did one for us it's called Harvey Recovery Radio.
Yes.
And it's all Houston musicians. It's a history, kind of a capsule history of Houston music that he made for Glasstire in the wake of Harvey.
Out of the way. With our own self-serving promo out of the way. Number 2 is you.
Oh, it's called You Must Remember This. It's out of Los Angeles. It's written and hosted by a film critic and historian named Karina Longworth. It's great. It's all about old Hollywood, old, haunted, creepy, strange, corrupt, wonderful Hollywood from 1900 to 2000. You should start with the 11-episode series in the middle of it called Charles Manson's Hollywood, which is one of the most riveting things I've ever listened to in a podcast. It's not just about the murders, it's about all these tertiary people around it, including the Beach Boys and Doris Day, and of course Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski. But anyway, start there, and then you can jump around and listen to things about all these other Hollywood figures. It's terrific.
Number 3 is something that many people have already listened to, but if you have not yet gotten around to this, we cannot recommend strongly enough S-Town. It's from This American Life and the people who did Serial. Don't Google anything about it. Don't look it up. Just understand that this is a podcast about a genius guy living in a tiny town in rural Alabama, and that's all you need to know. And there's a murder, and that's all you need to know. Go from there.
Gosh,
it's wonderful.
Good. Yeah,
it's so good. I've listened to it twice, all the way through. I love it.
4th is Savage Lovecast. Now, you just started listening to it.
With you, we were driving through West Texas on that 85-mile-an-hour highway between El Paso and Marfa, and you turned that guy on, and he turns it on. Man. That was I loved it. It was so fun to listen to.
Yes, Dan Savage is an advice columnist, sex and relationship advice columnist. He's had a syndicated written column since 1991, so I feel like I grew up with him. But the podcast has been on since 2006, so it's sex and relationships and families. He's incredibly wise. I agree with everything he says. It can get pretty dirty sometimes, but it's not dirty for the sake of it. He really is giving people sound advice. The first 10 minutes or so, he tends to do a bit of a political commentary thing. He's very queer, he's very out, he's married, he's got kids. The advice is great.
Yeah. And it's not, a lot of it is about sex and explicitly so, but a lot of it is about relationships, parents, children, just managing our interpersonal interactions with other human beings. It's wonderful, and it's actually very dear and sweet, and and smart. I loved it. For our final thing, we're rounding up things that we listen to or want to listen to, and this is sort of a catch-all basket of a bunch of things. The ones we listed are strong recommends. I love Two Dope Queens. They are 2 women, and they're comedians, and it's great, and they have guests on. I want to listen to Ear Hustle, Brandon's recommendation, which is recorded at, I think, San Quentin. It's recorded at a prison. Cocaine and Rhinestones, my friend Danielle recommended that. It's the good old stories from good old country music, sort of 70s, 80s country music.
Mm-hmm.
And then Andrew Luck Book Club. This is a little square, but he's an NFL quarterback, and he has a reading club, a monthly book club, and he does a podcast where he interviews the authors, which I thought was great. Lastly, I do have a recommendation for children, because none of these are really super children friendly, but Mars Patel, the Disappearance of Mars Patel series, I have tested in the kind of 7 to 12 demographic, and it's great, and it's interesting. It's about middle schoolers, and one of them disappears, and it's a mystery, and it's a fun show, and kids love it. So that's a good one for kids.
All right. See, for me, I would say I listen to the New Yorker Radio Hour pretty regularly. Some of them are really short, like 10 to 15 minutes, which is good for a shorter drive. David Remnick is the host. He's also the editor of the New Yorker. He's usually talking to his own writers, contributing writers, about things that they've written that week, but he has guests on as well. It's great. Mark Maron, his What the Fuck podcast, WTF, where he interviews other comedians, primarily other comedians, but he's also interviewed even Barack Obama. He's almost 900 episodes in by now, and it was the first podcast that was cataloged by the Library of Congress. These are great interviews, good kind of inside baseball about comedy, very confessional, very intimate. And then last but not least, I'm always trying to get people to listen to the second season of Serial. Everyone listened to the first season because it's great, about Adnan Syed and the murder, but the second season is about Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, who was an American soldier who was held by the Taliban for 5 years. It's very depressing, but it's really, really good, and that aired in 2015, 2016, so...
Well, we're all driving around this summer, and we're all driving around all the time, so... We listen to podcasts. We would love to hear what podcasts you like. Yes. We're always looking for good stuff to listen to, so please let us know your recommendations. And in the meantime, stay cool out there.
Stay cool.
Whew.
All right.
And go see some art, go listen to some podcasts.
Yeah.